The Collective Whisper Podcast with Simon Kane. Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome Baz Black. Baz Black is an actor, media contributor, model, and performance artist. Selected acting credits include Into the Badlands, Blue Bloods, and Irish Pictorial Weekly, and upcoming Irish production Kin. Baz is also a highly respected piercing artist and a proponent of body modification. He frequently contributes to media debates on the merits and artistry of body modification. He has pierced professionally for over 15 years and owns a tattoo and piercing shop in Ireland. He has worked across the world and continues to work at tattoo conventions and guest spots on a regular basis. He also plays drums for the band Amongst the Wolves. Welcome to the show, Baz.
Thanks very much for having me. Pleasure.
Good. How are you? How is everything?
Yeah, all good. Tough times for everybody at the moment, but we're struggling through it as best we can.
Yeah, you're in. Are you in Dundalk? You are, yeah.
Dundalk, yeah, that's where I'm based.
How is everything there?
Yeah, there's not much moving. As regards working in our industry, for the tattoo and piercing side of it, it's all on shutdown, obviously. So yeah, just trying to stay as creative as possible as regards writing scripts and getting stuff done on the other side of things.
Yeah. Do you find that this time is giving you kind of more impetus to do, written material and scripts and everything because you're at home more, or is it like hindering work you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, really. I'm so used to being so busy, not having a minute, running from one thing to the other. So for me, it was a little bit of an adjustment, change and challenge. And I think a lot of people, including my friends, you kind of feel a lot of pressure to be creative because you're sitting at home doing nothing. And I've always said it, but you can't force it. You can't force yourself to be creative if you're not feeling it, you're not in the mood, you're not in the right mindset. So I just taking it day by day. And I did use it to get my feature film script finished, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So that was definitely a bonus. And I have been lucky that I got to do some filming over the last year as well. So because I know a lot of my friends, they've not been able to do anything at all. So yeah, 50-50, I think.
Yeah, it's hard. I know my sister is an actress and she has that kind of problem as well where, obviously shoots were shut down and things put on the long finger and, waiting for months and now turning into years. So it's a hard time for anybody in the music industry or in the acting industry completely, because it's just kind of, I think the government looks upon these things, they're not a necessity. These are just something that, keeps people entertained. But right now, when you look at it, now people need to be entertained because they're spending more time in the home. So, like, the arts is really badly needed now, but the funding and everything is not there for it.
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, it's seen as, just not essential in any shape or form. And it's the one thing that people turned to during the lockdown was the arts, Netflix movies, reading books, music, all that kind of stuff. The only things that were going ahead filming wise were the bigger productions that were able to afford the COVID tests. And I was lucky enough to be on a few of those, but anything smaller or indie or anything like that just went out the window. And same with the gigs. I play for two bands, and all the gigs just been pushed and moved, and then a lot of the stuff got cancelled as well. Even in January I booked a commercial, a big commercial and a well-paid commercial, and I was delighted, and I was meant to fly to Portugal on the 20th of January, and it got pushed to February and then pushed to March, and now there's radio silence. They couldn't get it together because of COVID, and I don't know if that's going to go away or if it's going to come back. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I'm sure like that. There's lots of actors and musicians that had good gigs got, and they were like, oh wow, this could be a lucrative season, and then everything was just kind of pulled from under their feet, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. And in comparison, it's small scale to what a lot of people have had to go through, obviously, with the virus. But just it has been so tough, and especially for creative people, in the arts, and finding new ways to try and express themselves. It's just been a whole kind of culture shock to the system, having to adapt to it.
So, come here, Baz. Obviously, you have your finger in a lot of pies, which I think is brilliant. I'm that kind of soul myself. I like to dabble in lots of different things, but just obviously looking over all your stuff. I mean, you do so much, and you must have no time for doing. At the moment, you've lots of time probably,
Yeah.
but in a normal day to day between your bands and your acting, modeling, directing, all that kind of stuff, how do you find the time to do everything?
Jack of all trades, master of none. It's
yeah.
I don't know. It's always been kind of one of my problems or my weaknesses. Like, I definitely have a touch of ADD, and I do flitter from one project to the next. But I mean, I've always just been really creative, and my mind kind of never stops. And whatever I can do to be creative in whatever aspect comes along, I just try and adapt to it as best I can. I've gotten better as the years have gone on. I've kind of been able to concentrate a little bit more, and try not to let the distractions get the better of me. But yeah, I don't know. Everything I do is I have to have a passion for it if I'm doing it. And I won't do something unless I'm 100% invested, and I'm very committed to whatever I do, whether it's with the bands or the music or the writing or directing or acting or whatever it is. I might jump around on projects, but I always try and give them 100%.
Well, I think that's the thing. Once you're doing different things, it's very hard to just kind of do one thing, move on to the next. You're doing them all in tandem, and you're kind of saying, "Oh my God, I have a meeting to go to, or I have to talk to this person, and I'm working on a song or working on a script." And that's kind of the way, I suppose. No matter how focused you try to be, when you're anyway creative, you're kind of like it's sometimes the mind of a scattered genius. You know where everything is, and you have the keys to all the rooms. But if you were to try and show somebody else or explain it, they'd be lost.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it like 100% what you said. And just trying to keep checking yourself as well. To make sure that you are giving your best to each of these projects. And not letting one take away from the other. But even when I was busy and it was stressful and running from one thing to the other, I handle it pretty well. And like I said, anything that I do is always something that I genuinely want to do. I won't do anything unless I'm properly invested into it, But I suppose I did have a problem with saying no. There's one thing about positive mindset and saying yes to as much as you can, but taking on too much and saying yes to everything that comes along, you end up burning yourself out a little bit. So in that regard, being able to sit back and reflect a little bit more has been good during the lockdown.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit. Obviously, you're from Louth. Were you born in County Louth, or where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Drogheda originally, and then my family moved out to the countryside just outside Drogheda when I was about 5. So I still went to school in Drogheda and all that kind of stuff, but we were lucky that we got to grow up in the countryside and not in the actual town.
Is your family big? Like, do you have many brothers and sisters, or only child, or what's the story?
I have an older brother, and then I have a younger sister.
Right.
So
right.
Not a massive family. And like me and my brother are like chalk and cheese. He's suited and booted business owner.
Really?
He's like completely the opposite to me. Yeah, he's a drummer as well, actually. But and then my sister, like, she's a childminder, and all of us kind of different, but growing up, we all got along. Yeah.
And both your parents are still alive, or? Yeah,
still alive. Yeah.
When you look back now, kind of for your early memories, what kind of memories do you have growing up? Because you were living in the countryside, or kind of in the suburbs, or?
Yeah, kind of. Well, just outside. I mean, about 5 miles outside the town, and it was like a countryside. We had a big woodland behind us, which was great. And pretty happy memories as a child. I say to my mom now, I was like, Jesus, like, we used to go off at like 9 a.m. down the woods, and there'd be a whistle from my dad for dinner at 5 o'clock. I'd be like there to my mom, what if we died down there? She's just like, that's the way it was,
Yeah.
And these days, it's the opposite, everyone on their mobiles checking in on each other.
It's crazy. Yeah, I was talking to Dave Finnegan lately from the actor, and he was saying they'd go up the Dublin mountains, and they'd nearly be coming back the next morning,
Yeah,
and the mother would be like, "Oh, where the hell were you?" Because that out of sight, out of mind. But
yeah,
it's the mindset's changed now completely because parents are overprotective and worrying, and maybe there's some reason, but the problem is we're too connected now to everybody, aren't we?
yeah, yeah. There's no freedom anymore, and yeah, I'm just glad that I'm sounding old, but I'm glad that we grew up in that
Yeah.
era where it was that kind of, you go off an adventure and they weren't worrying, and there's no way the only way of contacting us was my dad whistling.
Yeah,
That was
yeah. I was going to say there, I don't think there's many dads that'll be out the back whistling nowadays.
it. No, yeah, definitely not.
An odd one, but not many. So when you were in the town, then obviously, and as you started becoming, into teenage years and everything, was it a around that area? Was there much to do, or were you bored? Did you kind of want to head into the city more?
Yeah, well, I mean, Drogheda, it's quite a rough town, has a reputation of it, and I went to school there, and it was quite rough. And I mean, I was a bit of a tearaway then in my teenage years, to be honest. And I kind of found um, music very early on from my cousins, which was great, and that was kind of my escape, and drumming and all that kind of stuff. And then I was doing a lot of boxing and martial arts kind of stuff, and getting into a lot of trouble though in school and fights and all your usual juvenile kind of crap, and then it wasn't really until I started jiu-jitsu then when I was 15 that I really kind of started calming down and get a lot more focus. And but yeah, so just kind of, it was a bit of a tearaway, like really bad temper, always getting in trouble. And then the kind of, like, I never diagnosed or anything, but the ADD thing, just not being able to concentrate. I didn't want to be in school. Um, the only things I liked were stuff like art and anything creative like English, and
Hmm.
everything else I hated and rebelled and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was a bit of a tearaway as a teenager, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I suppose everybody in some ways, some are worse than others, and some could be considered very tame to other people. But the one thing, obviously, because I was like you, I when I was young, I studied martial arts for years, and it does ground you. I mean, it depends obviously on your level of wildness going into it. But I think when you're doing boxing or martial arts or jujitsu or karate, anything like that, it gives you that little bit of discipline, and you kind of because really when you're in a gym or you're in a dojo, the instructor's not going to take any shit, so you can come in and you're
Yeah,
like, well, nobody's going to stop me, and he's like, well, there's the door. So
yeah,
if you're in here for the hour or 2 hours you're doing the class, you have to listen to me, or whoever
yeah.
else is in charge. So it does teach you that little bit of discipline, and then it teaches you respect for other people too, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And it was the threat of, if you're caught acting the bollocks outside the dojo,
Yeah.
out of the club. And to be honest with you, I was when I was boxing, the trainer and the instructor, like, he was really, really bad influence on us young lads, because he was kind of inciting violence. He was like, if somebody looks at you in the street, you go over and you knock them out.
Really?
And he was telling us young, impressionable lads, and it was completely wrong when you look back on it now. And then when I joined jiu-jitsu, it was just the complete opposite. And then just even the Japanese discipline, and learn about the heritage and the respect and all that. I'm not saying I turned into an angel overnight, but it definitely gave me a lot more focus and kind of calmed me down a lot as well.
Yeah, well, I think that that's what's great about any kind of sport or martial art or anything. But it's true. I mean, I've trained in a few different gyms, and sometimes some of these instructors, some of them can be great, and they're very good people, and they have the students' interests at heart. But yeah, when you get an instructor that's kind of like sometimes doing favoritism, and then telling students to really act out the violence if they're kind of provoked, it's not a great thing. And if someone is in any way kind of inclined towards violence, and you have an instructor pushing you and giving you the
Yeah.
skills and the weapons to use that, it's not a good thing.
No, definitely not. And they don't realize how much influence they have over these young lads. And all the fighting and all the acting up and all that, it's all a defense mechanism. It was it was being scared in a rough town and kind of acting out onto that, and trying to act the hard man and all that kind of crap that goes on with young lads, um, and then just when you join something like martial arts, and like my sensei when I joined, he was the most gentle, calmest man you would ever come across, and I mean he'd kill you in a second, but he was so softly spoken you would never suspect, and he was a 6 dan black belt and absolutely amazing, and he really, and like he ended up like coming to my band's gigs, and he was so supportive, and he made such an impact on my life, and then when I was not 18 or 19, he killed himself.
Oh no way!
And it was such a huge hit, at that kind of age, having a mentor like that had done so much, and it definitely rocked me for a while there. Yeah.
Wow. Like, was it depression or something he suffered from?
Yeah, it was like, I mean, he was fine and normal training and everything, but I'll never forget the last night we were training, and I was up to a stage where I was teaching some of the classes, and he asked me to teach the class, and he was very, very somber and not like himself at all, because he was normally always so chatty, and there was something up anyway. But the owner of the jiu-jitsu club at the end, when we were locking up, I'll never forget. He said to Dave, he goes, "Make sure you come to me tomorrow, and we'll talk about this problem. We'll sort it out." And Dave, my sensei, like he turned around and said, "I'm going to sort this out myself."
Okay.
So, not realizing at the time, but that's what he meant then. Yeah. So
Yeah. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. Well, that's sad. That's sad, and it just shows you, though, doesn't it? Because people always assume, that depression is only against those. It's the people that suffer the most are people who are weak, but even people who are mentally and physically strong can be overtaken by it, and it's a shame, isn't it?
yeah, it's horrible. I mean, it'd just be the last, as people always say, it'd be the last person that you would expect, and
Wow.
so talented and so dedicated to the martial arts and everything, and so yeah, that was kind of a big hit then around that age to kind of take on. Yeah.
When you were in school and stuff, did you want to go on and study further education, or did you want to kind of go out work? And what was your thought process?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to drum in bands,
Right.
and I was drumming in bands, and anything I could do to kind of get me out of school. And then, yeah, when I finished school, then I didn't want to go to college or anything like that, and I took on an apprenticeship as a painter, like on building sites and stuff like that, just to get some work under my belt. And then after a while of doing that, when everyone shut up about it, I decided then I would go to college and train. And I actually went to train and qualified as a fitness instructor.
Okay.
Because I was still teaching jiu-jitsu, so it went hand in hand. I went and qualified in that, and I was working in gyms then part-time as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I know, like, my niece is a fitness instructor, and she's in the UK at the moment, but she's still doing it. But I know lots of other people that have studied to be fitness instructors, and especially when you do these private courses and you pay 1,500, 2,000 euros. But there's a lot of people do them and don't do anything after, isn't there? Then
yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I always trained in the gym. I still train in the gym without, and I was working in the gym, and it was coming from teaching martial arts and training martial arts. I was on the European team. We were training 6 nights a week, and then going into a gym, and I was so used to, people doing what they were told and training to their hardest and really fighting for that goal and fighting for your team and everything. And then you go into a gym and you're speaking to people, and they come back to you in 6 weeks and it's like, "Oh, I haven't lost any weight." And you look and they've been to the gym twice, and it was the complete 360 of what I was used to.
Yeah.
And it really frustrated me. And I decided it wasn't really something that I was interested in. So,
and it's hard, isn't it? Because, like, I had a kind of similar path where I was involved in martial arts for years and training 5 nights a week. And I remember, hitching and thumbing in the rain when my old fella couldn't give me a lift because he was working, and I'd hitch and everything. And you just did everything you could to make the training and to do it and to go for your gradings and so on.
Yeah.
And you give it your all. And but then, as you get older, then you can discover other things. And for me, like that, I discovered music as I got a bit older, and things can change. And it's funny though, because when sometimes the life of musicians and actors and everything can be kind of the opposite of, let's say, a professional martial artist, where they're focused but in a different way, and they're maybe staying up late at night, getting up earlier or getting up later in the day, and it's a different lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. But what I will say about the martial arts, and just because I was teaching, it definitely has helped me with my directing now.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I realized that I was good at teaching people, and I'm good at explaining things and relating to people and stuff. So I think there's loads that I could take from the martial arts days. But yeah, I was the same. Like, I was obsessed. I was just training, as much as I possibly could, and it was my everything. And like you said, things come into your life and things completely change. And I look at it now and I'm like, I could never go back to that. But I'm after being cast as a cage fighter in a new feature film, a UK feature film called On Cage. So I'm back. I'm back to square one again, where I have to go back training again. And I quickly realized that my flexibility and my cardio is completely out the window. So
Yeah. So, but that's great, because obviously with a movie about cage fighting or MMA, a lot, the skills that you already have that might be a bit rusty will come back to you, and it's a great asset for the director and the whole movie project. So that's going to be a great thing, isn't it? And you have the boxing as well and everything, so you're kind of perfect for the role.
Yeah, it is great. And like, I still train in the gym and I do my bits and pieces and all that, but after I was filming for Kin, which my character I just felt was quite shoulder heavy and a bit of weight, I had to go back to the cardio side of getting into an MMA fighter again. But like, I was shocked at how bad my flexibility was. I used to be able to swing my leg around my head, the cardio side. But it's been a few weeks now, and I'm just kind of getting back up to close to where I need to be again. But yeah,
that's great.
It's a great role, and Francis Saunders, who's wrote and directed it, he's actually a cage fighter himself. He's retired now, but he had a great career in cage fighting, so he knows where he's coming from with it. So looking forward to it.
Brilliant. That'll be interesting. Yeah, because there's sometimes you'll find some of those gems of like when it comes to. I watched one recently, and it was I think it was called something champion, about the guy who was a jiu-jitsu champion and a BJJ champion, but he and it was kind of semi-true and semi-not, but it's quite good. So there are some of them you don't hear about, and you discover them, and you're like, oh, I didn't know this movie was there. Because I would have been like that. I would have watched when I was young all the Bruce Lee, Van Damme movies, Steven Seagal, all those movies. But now a lot of martial art movies are kind of maybe straight to video or B movies and so on. So sometimes you never hear about them, and then you just discover them by accident scrolling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's so many of them out there. There's a great boxing one called Jawbone. Did you see that one?
I haven't seen that yet. No, Jawbone.
Absolutely, it's an English one. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, there's so many of them out there, and the great thing about Francis is because he comes from that world and he loves all those movies, as I do as well. He's like, he doesn't want it to be stuff that's been made before, so it's kind of a drama set in the MMA world, with loads of different emotions going on, so it won't just be a straight martial arts film. So the script is really strong. So he's taking a different stance on it.
When you were filming Into the Badlands, and obviously Daniel Wu, he's a great martial artist and great actor in the thing. You must have seen a lot of fight choreography during like that time you were there, did you?
It was like a dream come true, because it was actually Jackie Chan's choreography team that were the ones choreographing it, and it was just to watch them was just like absolutely amazing. But who actually blew me away, and I couldn't believe it, was Nick Frost.
Really?
He because he's a big guy, and he had his stunt double there, and I don't think his stunt double did anything. He did all his own choreography, stunts, and the Jackie Chan team would be going through the choreography and showing him, and then he'd step in and he'd kind of shadow go through it. And I was thinking, they're just going to get pickups of it, whatever. And he'd go in and he'd do the take full, flipping guys over, like his agility for the size of him and everything. And I was speaking to him then afterwards, and I was like, Jesus, Nick, like I have to say, I wasn't expecting you to be doing those moves. And I was like, what martial arts did you train in? And he was like, I never really trained in martial arts. It's all dance training.
Okay.
That's what he did in theater training. He did a dance, degree. So his dance movements were what he was applying to the martial arts. And I was amazed at how good it was.
He's it's a bit like Patrick Swayze and Roadhouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a great dancer could probably make a great martial artist. Not necessarily in the cage, but for the screen, for sure.
Well, Van Damme as well. He was a ballet dancer, so it goes hand in hand. But yeah, being on Into the Badlands, it was such a cool experience. There was a scene that got cut out in the end, but I was good at. I was on a wire, and I was like jumping off the podium for this big like flying through the air punch thing, but it didn't make it in the final cut. But
that's a shame, I'm sure, for actors. They film the scenes and then they're going through the dailies and so on, and then they're like, my part's not in it, or that was the best part of my. Yeah, it's a shame because sometimes they can film so much and then they might only use 20% of it. So
that's it. I've an actor friend who was in like a pretty big new production and got the devastating email that her scenes were completely cut out of the whole thing.
Wow.
And it's no reflection on her or actors. It never usually is. It's to do with the edit and what they can fit in and how the story's shaping up and everything. But not in it at all, So
wow, yeah, it's a shame. So let's. I want to come back to the movies and the TV in a while, but just let's look at the music for a moment because what age did you start drumming at? And I suppose to lead on from that, what kind of music were you into in your teens?
Well, if you ask my mother, I've been drumming since the age of about 4.
Okay.
Just pots and pans, whatever I could get my hands on. But my cousins who lived just down the road from us growing up, they always had a garage band. So that's where we hung out as kids. And they used to play like Pantera songs and Metallica songs and tell us that it was their songs that they'd written. And it wasn't until I heard those songs years later, I was like, hold on, they're playing my cousin's songs. They ripped my cousin off.
Who the hell is this James Hetfield playing my cousin's songs?
Yeah. So it was the other way around. It was all that, like Iron Maiden, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, all the classics, kind of, heavy metal. That was my jam. And then as I got into my early teens, it kind of transferred over to a lot of punk rock kind of stuff. I got into Green Day and bands like that. But like I listened to an eclectic, array of different bands, and I still do to this day. But it was really the punk rock kind of drumming that I kind of attached myself to, like NoFX and all that kind of SoCal kind of fast punk rock.
Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing with punk. There's so many bands, whether it be Black Flag or NoFX or the Offspring or Green Day, which were more commercial. But I mean, there's such great diversity, and nowadays, obviously, you know what I mean. We need another punk revival. We need another rock revival, really, I suppose. But it's everything is changed, hasn't it? So even now, you'll still find most of the best punk bands are the older ones still.
Yeah, that is definitely true. There doesn't seem to be a lot coming through, or anything that's coming through seems to be all the same safe stuff,
Yeah.
But I mean, like Fate No More would be one of my favorite bands still to this day. I love.
I'm a big fan of Fate No More as well. I love those. Brilliant.
Absolutely, Mike Patton. Anything Mike Patton does is he's just a genius.
He's an amazing singer, and he's very underrated because it's funny because you can hear people like Metallica or Guns N' Roses or Pantera and stuff, but not everybody likes Fate No More, or not everybody has discovered them because they were very big, obviously, around that time when Guns N' Roses were doing those huge tours and Fate No More were touring. And but yeah, they don't get as much acclaim as they deserve, really, do they?
Definitely not. No. I know, like in a Kerrang poll, Angel Dust was voted as the most influential metal album of all time. So there's kind of like a quiet respect, but they never reached the heights of Metallica or Guns N' Roses or any of those kind of ones.
I know when I'm in the car and I'm playing, like if I've Metallica on or Guns N' Roses, my wife will listen to. But if I'm playing Faith No More, she's like, "Can I change this?" I'm like, "These are a great band. I don't know how you like this band."
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It took and actually same with my wife. I had the King for a Day album on like early on in our relationship, and she was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was so used to it. I was like, "What are we talking about? This is amazing." And she's like, "This is weird. Is that the same band?" Because they changed
Yeah,
so
the
much.
style.
And now it's one of our favorite bands, but they are a band that you have to kind of get an acquired taste for, I think.
Yeah, they have to grow on you because they don't sound so commercial, and you have to grow into the sound.
Yeah.
So when you were coming up then as a drummer and playing with bands and stuff, did you play in a lot of cover bands or original bands, or like were you trying to get a lot of gigs?
Always pretty much original bands. And I mean, my first band was, my brother, he's a piano player, he was on keyboards, and that was kind of a covers band. And then I was in a band called BLX, which was definitely like a punk rock kind of NoFX-y, kind of Blink 182 style kind of stuff. And we were only young lads, but we actually did like really well for ourselves, and we put out 2 albums and an EP. And we used to play, I don't know if you remember those Blast gigs in Dublin. They were like an all ages thing on a Saturday.
Yeah, I remember hearing about them.
They were huge, and if you got onto those, and they used to sell wherever, Temple Bar Music Centre, wherever, they used to sell them out. So we thought we were great. We thought we were little rock stars, playing away,
heading for the big time.
Yeah, hit it big time, definitely. So yeah, that was the first like proper band, and then it kind of just went on from there. I've never not been in a band really since I was about 12, and I've played in all sorts of bands. Like there was even the emo scene there for a while, kind of hard emo rock kind of stuff, and I played drums for DJs live in nightclubs, and my band now is like Celtic punk rock, and kind of like Dropkick Murphys kind of.
Let's talk about your band, Amongst the Wolves. So yeah, it's kind of a Celtic sound. You're a 3-piece, aren't you?
Yeah, 3-piece. Yeah.
And how at the moment, like obviously things have stopped, but up before that, were you recording or gigging or doing a lot?
We were flat out, yeah. We actually found ourselves on the biker rally circuit, which is not a route that I ever thought we'd end up going down. But because of the Celtic kind of piratey sound, they seem to like us. And then once you get on a few of them, they keep recommending you, and they've been brilliant to us. But yeah, we were playing loads of gigs in Dublin, and we're working on our second full length album. We have an EP, and we have our debut album as well. But yeah, at the moment everything is just kind of on hiatus,
Yeah, and it's funny because I was talking to someone a few months ago as well on the show, and we were talking about playing those biker gigs, because I remember years ago I was playing in a cover band, and we were kind of playing everything from Guns N' Roses, Metallica stuff, and mixing it up, and we were doing a lot of biker rallies, but those are some of the best gigs and some of the nicest people.
Definitely, they're like. And we've played like some of the hardcore ones, and we were a bit skeptical about it, and they treat you with so much respect. And other gigs, you'd be chasing them for your money afterwards. It'd be hand out, there's your money, no questions. But it's very unusual for an originals band like we are to get on the biker rally circuit. It's normally covers bands, and we throw in a few covers like into our set, but we're an original band, so to get on it is kind of it's a bit unheard of. But they've been really, really good to us, and we love playing them. So
that's great. You're able to keep it going and everything. Obviously, at the moment, it's a bit difficult, but Yeah. So when did you open up your tattoo shop and the piercing shop? How long ago did you open that?
Always have been fascinated with tattoos and piercing and the whole shebang, and it was always piercing for me because art-wise, drawing-wise, I'm not good at art, I'm creative in other aspects, but drawing-wise, I'm not. So it was always the piercing thing that fascinated me. So I was trying to get an apprenticeship here in Ireland, and it was proven really difficult. There was a shop in Dublin. I was going up and cleaning at the weekends and just trying to get my foot in the door and just working for free whenever I could. But there wasn't much happening. So I made the decision then to move to California to pursue an apprenticeship in that, and just basically pack my drums on my back, set off, no plans,
Wow.
nowhere to stay, didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So it was, everyone was like, "What are you doing? You're crazy," But I just knew that I just needed to get out, see the world, and just give it a go, So it was really, really tough, and I'll never forget the first night I arrived. I arrived onto Pacific Beach, and I thought there was a riot, or I thought that this was how it was over there. But the streets were packed. There was bottles being smashed. There was people screaming. I was like, "What am I after signing up for?" I didn't realize it was the 4th of July.
Oh, Christ.
When I went over, and every hostel or hotel or anywhere I went to look for a room, they just laughed at me. They were like, "It's been booked out for a year," So my first night, I slept on a park bench on the beach with my my drums in my hand in case anyone robbed me trying to sleep on the beach. And I was like, "What have I done?"
With the bass drum as a pillow.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And I'd no phone and no mobile. I couldn't speak to anyone, so I was just there lying on a bench on my first night. So, but it was brilliant. It was tough going, and I ended up getting an apprenticeship in Pearson over there. So that's where I actually trained. And it was really tough. And then when I came back, I was just like a completely different person. It was the best thing I ever did. And then the shop that I'd been helping out with in Dublin, they had an opening, so I started working there at Pearson in Temple Bar. So yeah, it's 18 years later.
So for you then, what was first, a tattoo or piercing? Which came first for you?
Piercing first.
Piercing first.
I got a lovely 90s big horrible ring in my eyebrow. Yeah, absolutely atrocious. And that was when I was about 14, I think. And then I got my first tattoo when I was 17.
It was mad because I remember, my sister getting her belly button pierced, and, someone, I think it was my sister's who got her nose pierced, but it was mad because people used to be getting piercings and done in bad places, and they'd be getting infected and everything. That was in the late 80s and 90s. So when it came to Ireland first, the whole piercing your nose, piercing your eyebrow, piercing your belly button and so on, I mean, there was a lot of dodgy places doing it too, wasn't there?
Yeah, unfortunately, there still is. It's sad but true. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll write a book someday about what I've seen over the years. But I have seen some nasty stuff, and really, really bad stuff. And there's so many cowboys out there, and it's so dangerous. And there's so many people that's just like, "Oh well, it's just piercing. It's not tattooing. It's just piercing." And you can do so much more damage with piercing than with tattooing. You're getting into nerve endings, and
yeah. Well, I mean, it's invasive because I think people just assume the ear is a kind of a dead piece of skin, so that's always been fine. But when you kind of go into the eyebrow and the penis and whatever gets pierced, I mean, you're talking about lots of nerves, no?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. But I mean, even the ear, and you're like, "Oh, it's just an earlobe. Do it with a gun." I've removed keloids like that size from people, which are growths, because you shatter the cartilage when you puncture it with a blunt object. You're shattering it, and your body can't heal it back like it normally would. So it starts healing it the opposite way. So I've removed lumps off noses, ears, and I've had people with septicemia. I've had people who've had to get plastic surgery. I've had, people that were put in hospital because they've done so much damage. And you can give somebody a stroke if you pierce too deep. So if you've no understanding of anatomy and physiology, you have no business putting a needle through anybody.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like shooting through a wall, because if someone gives you a gun and says shoot through that plasterboard wall, you don't know what's on the other side, so you're taking a chance. So if somebody's shoving a needle into someone's skin, they don't know what cartilage is there unless they've studied the anatomy. Exactly, so that's a big kind of a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, like I said, it's so dangerous. And now the availability of eBay, and you can go buy it, and it's like, oh, my mate's gonna do it, and it's just like, if you've seen what I've seen and you know what can be done and how dangerous it is, and especially with the likes of a tongue, if you hit that main artery, they're linked to the arteries on the side of your neck.
Wow.
Like, you can literally, bleed out, and like there's so much dangerous. And then there's the whole septicemia thing and bacteria infections, and like I said, I've seen a lot of stuff, and to do it properly, I mean, it's a 3-year apprenticeship. It's anatomy and physiology. It's bloodborne pathogens. It's aseptic technique. Before you're even allowed to touch a needle. I've had 8 apprentices, and they're not allowed to touch a needle for a year. They're not allowed to do any. It's all theory and learning exactly what they need to do. And if you want to be proper and professional about it, anybody can ram a needle through anybody. But if you don't know what you're doing in placement and anatomy, then you've no business doing it.
Like, in the modern age of piercing, with lots of piercing and tattoo shops, how is it regulated? I mean, is there people that come out from the HSC or stuff to check on shops? How does that work?
Well, this is a long campaign of mine that I've sent petitions into governments. We've been promised every year that it's going to change. There's actually no law or legislation in Ireland at all,
right,
to regulate tattoo or piercing. We're the last European country to actually have it, and it's ridiculous. I've seen the proposal. They brought out a proposal about 2 years ago, but even the proposal is not practical, because they're getting people from a medical background to write these things that have no idea about tattoos or piercings. They don't understand. They're treating it like, a hospital or a clinical setup, which it is, but they've no idea about tattoo needles or guns or piercing equipment, or what needs to be done and what metals needs to be used or anything like that, So they need to do what the UK did, and each county bring in a board of 5 piercers and 5 tattoo artists, and they work in conjunction with the health and safety to bring it in, But yeah, no, literally, I could sit out in a van and start piercing tomorrow, and nobody can shut me down.
I mean, it's fine, obviously, if it's someone who knows what they're doing, but the regulations would make sure that the customer going in knows it's a certified place.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is going to sound, bitter and egotistical now. It's a sad fact. If the regulations came in properly tomorrow to Ireland, I would estimate that 40% of the shops would be shut down overnight. There's a certain shop that is still active to this day that has carpets on their floors.
Wow.
So just think about the plasma and on a carpet, like, it's stuff like that. In California, if you don't have your autoclave certificate and you don't have your bloodborne pathogens and all your certificates displayed on the window, you're not allowed open. And that's the way it should be,
Right. And tell me, because I see, obviously, there's so many kind of services now, like body modification and everything. And, what happens then if somebody, let's say, gets their ear done and they have, a bigger hole, and then after a few years they want to get rid of it? I mean, is the road back to getting your ear back to recovery, is that a cosmetic thing, or like, will the cartilage grow back in itself? How does that usually happen?
It depends on how big the hole is and the area and stuff like that. But it would normally, if it was big enough, it'd be a reconstruct job. But the whole body modification thing is a complete grey area at the moment, because in the UK, he's a friend of mine, actually, he's a body mod practitioner, and he's very skilled at what he did, and it wasn't any of his customers that complained. He had a falling out with a jewellery company, and they reported him to the health board saying that he was doing these body modification procedures, and they looked into it, and to make an example out of him, they gave him 3.5 years in prison for GBH. And even though there was consent, and the actual customers got up and testified in court saying that they were happy and there was no problems, the judge was like,
what did he do? What kind of modification?
So there was 3 different ones. One was, I'm trying to remember now. One was like an ear pointing job, where you shape the ear into a point, kind of like healthier things.
Kind of like Vulcan ears.
Kind of like that, yeah, that kind of job. One was a tongue split, and then one was, well, this is pretty hardcore, but one was like a nipple removal.
Really?
Because the guy wanted to get it tattooed without the nipple being there. And so yeah, the judge just basically said, he goes, I need to make an example out of you, so everyone stops doing this, and gave him like 3.5 years. And he only got out there a couple of months ago.
Obviously, when you say there, let's say nipple removal, so when they're doing cosmetic surgery for like a breast job or whatever, and someone's getting silicone implants, I think sometimes they go through the nipple or around the nipple. So where's the line between like a cosmetic surgeon doing a procedure and, let's say, body modification? How?
Yeah.
Because obviously the cosmetic surgeon would be more highly trained usually, no?
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely sitting on the fence as regards. I completely agree on one side and I disagree on the other side. But I mean, you are right, and there's cowboys that have done body modifications that are not trained to the standards, and there is no like actual legitimate training for a body mod artist. It's up to them to study the anatomy and physiology and that side of things. And so I completely agree, and it is so dangerous in the wrong hands. And then there's people who are amazing at it as well, and it is a very grey line. My reason for being on the other side of the fence is, uh, as long as it's performed safely by somebody who is competent, who has shown their work to be competent, that nobody can dictate what you can and can't do to your body. So
well, I suppose that, like as you said earlier, that's where you need the regulations, because if someone says, I want to get a nipple removed, for example, and the law says, well, yeah, but you can only get that done by a certified plastic surgeon or cosmetic surgeon, and not by a body mod guy or girl.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's obviously where we need regulation on that side to keep people safe. No.
Yeah. No. That's 100%. I do agree with it. There needs to be regulations or training even offered to body modified practitioners that so they can do it safely. But yeah, I mean, I don't do any of that stuff anymore because of all the gray area, all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, like I still pierce, but I only do like appointment only, and I only do high end jewelry, diamonds and piercings and implant grade titanium, fancy kind of stuff. And by appointment, I've kind of moved away from it, acting and my production company and the music and all that. That's my main focus. So I still pierce and I still love the actual art of piercing, but I've had so many shops and I've done it for so long that I've kind of moved on a little bit from it.
Yeah, I understand. And here's the thing, I don't understand this. Like, you know what I mean? The whole thing about tattooing, and I mean, you've some great tattoos. I've no tattoos, but I've nothing against tattoos. And I think tattoos are one of these things where you either love them or hate them. But if you hate them, you don't have to cast, aspersions on other people, and you don't have to judge them, because the whole point is, I mean, women can get ass implants and breast implants, and people are like, oh, fair play to her, she wants to look good. But the point is, like, it's like everything now with gender identity and, people being allowed to be who they want to be. And I kind of, looking over some of your stuff, and I saw some of the TV shows you were on, people have funny reactions, and I mean, and say some like ridiculous things. And, I'm not going to name, obviously, that woman who was on that show. You know who I'm talking about.
I don't mind.
I won't name her because they'll come after me then. But you know who I'm talking about, and other people can as well, probably. But I mean, it's just sometimes people being nasty for the sake of being nasty. And the point is, I think it doesn't matter. I mean, if you have an all-over face tattoo, look at Mike Tyson when he got that, because he was famous and successful. There was no problem with it. But it's just, if people don't know you and they see you the first time, they can give you a lot of flack. And I don't think it's very fair. But unfortunately, this world can be very cruel sometimes, no?
It's unfortunately right. It's human nature to judge aesthetically, and that's fine. But like you said, you don't have to project your opinion on something just because you don't like it. And we're living in a very toxic world with social media, as we all know, and the comments. It's them being miserable with their own lives, and they're in the confines of their own life, and they would love to be able to express themselves, and they're so bitter and angry that they try and project it onto other people, their insecurities and their negativity. And I mean, we all see stuff that we judge or we don't like or whatever, but like me personally, I never feel the need to express that. I just quietly have my opinion and then I move on from it. But with the tattoos, and it's one of those things, like it sounds a bit cliched and a bit like whatever, but it is the truth that my tattoos, I don't get them for other people's opinions. I get them because I wanted them and for myself. And then people are like, oh well, you have to live with the decision that people are going to judge you and express their opinions onto it. And it's like, yeah, I understand that, but that's the world that we've been brought up in, to judge and anything that's different. And if you don't stay within the lines, there's some people that are so programmed, and it's usually through generational families and how they're brought up and all, and they just think, well, how dare you be different than what I've been told with my rules, and they're usually miserable with their life and they're like, I don't want you to be happy with your life, so it's ridiculous. I mean, I've had death threats because of the way I look.
Really?
Like, it's like humans, I mean, we've failed on so many levels, sometimes, and I see some of the comments, but they're just looking for a reaction, and I stopped giving them a reaction a long time ago. I used to sit there and get angry and write back to them, and I've invited numerous people to come visit me in my shop and say it to my face, and it's funny how they never show up. I give them the address, I pin drop them the address and say, right, you're on your screen now, let's go have a chat, or on the street. And I do get comments on the street, and I try and avoid social situations and going out, because especially when people are drunk, I end up in rows with people because they can't keep their opinions or their hands to themselves. And it's a sad way to be, and it makes it awkward for my friends and family more than me, because I'm used to it.
But the shame about it is because it's like everything in life. When somebody does something and that somebody else deems as a success, they're like, oh, fair play to you, well done. But if somebody does something that another person wouldn't do, the first word that comes to mind is any regrets, or do you have regrets?
Yeah.
And this is the thing that, fair enough, sometimes people get a tattoo and then maybe, it could be in a drunken state, or even they could get it and decide afterwards, I don't like that. But I mean, thank God there are ways to kind of remove them now. But I can see when I look at you, you're somebody who's thought about your tattoos, and I don't for once think that you got a tattoo and then you thought, okay, well, I've this sleeve done now, I have to keep going, I can't stop. Because you're not going to kind of do 30% of your body and say, well, I'm fucked now, I have to keep going. You always have a choice. So for me, looking at you, I think you looked in the mirror and said, I want to get a new tattoo. I want another one. This is my body. I want to decorate it how I see fit, no?
Yeah, like I honestly never like planned to be covered in tattoos. I was never like, I'm going to get covered in tattoos, It was very much, and this is the truth, it was very much organic. If I wanted something, or something meant enough to me, or I have loads of my martial arts stuff, my family bands, if I wanted it, I would just go and get it, and I would never seek anybody's approval or ask anybody's opinion. And I mean, in some ways, it was a bit reckless at times, and I just didn't care. I was just like, I'm getting it done, I just don't give a shit, And I do have no regrets tattooed on my throat, because the amount of people that do say that to me. But I did a viral video there a couple of years ago. I don't know if you saw it, but I
did. I saw the video about the office.
Yeah. So yeah, covered all my tattoos and the makeup, and yeah, when I looked in the mirror at myself when I was covered, and the way, like, people always say to me, oh, what happens when you're 60, and do you think you'll ever regret them, and all this, and I always, say, no, I just live for today. You could be hit by a bus tomorrow. But at the back of your mind, you do think, well, what would I look like without tattoos? And how would my life be? Would it be easier or better or whatever? But when I covered them and I looked at myself in the mirror, I honestly felt like a stranger was looking back at me.
Right.
Like, and it really, like, just hit the point home that any doubts that I may have had, after that, I didn't have any doubts, because I couldn't wait to get the makeup off. It just, I can't explain it, but it did not feel like me at all.
Yeah. You kind of felt naked in a different way.
Yeah, I felt like vulnerable, or I don't know, it just felt weird. And my own mother introduced herself to me.
Oh, like she didn't know you?
No. So I was like filming, and I showed up with the DOP, the guy that was shooting it, and I had told her, I was like, oh, I want to film something. Is it okay if we film like down the hall and that? But I didn't tell her what it was for or anything. And we called to the front door, and she like put out her hand. She was like, oh, hi, I'm Barry's mom. Like,
wow.
introduced herself to me. And then it took her a minute, and then she looked at my eyes, and she was like, "Oh, like I've never seen my mother freak out more in her whole life." So yeah,
With family, it's one thing if a stranger says, I don't like that or whatever. But, was that something as well with your parents, when you started getting tatted up? Was it something that they learned to live with very quickly? Or are they still, like your mother at that time when you had all the makeup on? She mightn't have said it, but she might have been going, "Oh, I prefer you this way." Or, how do you think she feels about it now?
well, I mean, whether she was lying or not, but she actually said that I looked weird, and she didn't like it, So
Right.
maybe that's just my mom being nice. But my mom's always been kind of like quite supportive and open and all that kind of stuff. Um, but my dad, when I got my first face tattoo, he freaked out because I know he didn't approve of me getting the visible tattoos, whatever. But he never really said anything. And then when I came home, I'm trying to fucking find it. It was that little star under my eye, and that was my commitment to the industry because I knew by getting that I would be a piercer, And I got that when I was 17, so that's a massive fucking thing to get
Yeah,
on your
yeah,
face.
yeah,
When
yeah,
you're 17.
yeah.
But I just knew, and I've always been quite headstrong about stuff like that. But he freaked out, and it took him a while to get used to it. But now he just be telling his golf buddies all about about me, and so it's completely changed.
Like the thing is, because for some people they will have tattoos. I remember I worked for a guy and he had a big, huge dragon tattoo on his forearm. But he said, the one thing was when he would go to weddings or something, he wouldn't roll his shirt sleeves up too high because
Yeah,
he would be, this was like in the 60s and 70s, because he'd be afraid people seeing that tattoo and, yourself. But so a lot of people, I'm sure, get tattoos below the shirt, or under the sleeve or below the neck and stuff, because they want to kind of have that professional side with shirts and
yeah.
everything, and then go out in the weekend to be a punk or be a rocker. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure that happens a lot.
But like when you think about it existentially, you think about the human existence and us being on this rolling rock and the mentality that's been drilled into us because it's such a normal thing to have that reaction. And that's the way it was back then with the tattoos. And I understand that's how they're brought up. But isn't it insane that, you know, the way you want to look, you need to hide from certain people to get a job, to be accepted in a social situation, and it goes for anything. It goes from somebody that's dying to wear a bright orange hat to the wedding, but they're afraid they're going to be judged. It's unfortunately it's the way that the human condition has been brought up. But when you think about it from a different perspective, you're like, isn't that just absolutely insane? And it's so sad that there's so many people living and not being true to themselves, whether that's afraid to come out that they're gay or afraid to get the tattoo or afraid, because they're so fearful of other people judging them and what they will say. And then on their deathbed, are they going to turn around and say, well, fuck them, I should have just lived the way I wanted to live?
The thing was one time that if a guy walked in with all, tats on his face and everything, people were thinking, he's neo-Nazi or skinhead or so on, and that it's bringing trouble. This guy is violent or he's angry, or, especially like
Yeah.
you probably have been in the situation where you have other friends who are tatted up like you, and they maybe you go together somewhere, and then people are thinking, is this a gang of thugs or who are these guys?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Again, it's kind of, and yeah, like you said, like in the 60s and 70s, it was associated with prison, and it was associated with sailors and roughs, and all that kind of stuff. But like, I mean, definitely for me, it was the whole punk rock rebellious side that I did. Like, I love with the tattoos, and that's why like my tattoos are very like black and grey, quite punk rock. They're not like perfect tattoos, and I completely respect and admire perfect tattoos, but they're just not for me. And now it's become so mainstream and so popular that it's gone the other way now. It's become mainstream, and it's not rebellious to get a tattoo anymore. You're almost cooler if you don't have one.
Like I noticed, I'm living in Spain here, obviously, and lots of people have tattoos, but small tattoos, So it's like, obviously for years in the UK, the tramp stamp, the women that have the tattoo at the base or above the pants, and
Yeah.
they were kind of very common. But in Spain here, you see a lot of women, even like in their late 40s and 50s, and they have the tattoos here, but they're smaller ones, the butterflies on the ankle and all of this. So people seem here, if they're involved in the rock and punk scene, of course they'll have more. But in the general public, a lot of people have tattoos, more than not, but they're all very small.
Yeah, they're become like kind of like a fashion accessory, and especially with girls, like in the last 5-6 years, it's become huge, But like you said, very small, dainty, kind of on fashion trend, yeah. And that's fine if that's what you want to get. But I mean, when I had my tattoo shops and that, we would always, and I think it's a moral obligation, and not to be egotistical and not in a nasty way, but we would always make sure that they were getting things for the right reason, and what they were getting, they were going to be happy with. And like when Cheryl Cole got that tribal thing on the side of her hand, we had about 100 girls coming in,
really,
in a month looking for it. And there was loads of girls that we were asking, oh, well, like, job, and you need to think about these things, and not lecturing them, but just saying, and a lot of them wanted to be air hostesses and stuff like that. And you're like, you can't have a visible hand tattoo. We talked so many out of it, and then there was some that we didn't, but like we do laser in the shop, and the amount of those ones that we have lasered off is crazy, And
does the laser actually work? Like, can you get rid of a tattoo completely?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, really?
The technology, and it's not like it was. It used to basically burn the skin. It's completely different now, and it you can put the laser on bare skin and it won't react. It'll only react to the tattoo ink, and it actually breaks down the pigment, and then your immune system comes along and flushes the ink out. But there's been full successful removal with no scarring on the regular. Yeah,
it's mad. I remember just when you think about the ink, and obviously, the way the Maoris tattoo their body with the old kind of traditional tools and everything. But I remember being in school when we were young, and we used to use the compass. You'd cut your initials into your forearm, and then you'd take the ink from the pen. It was, we didn't know it at the time, but it was kind of like what they do in prison. And we put them in. And I remember, even I don't have it now, but I remember, like, even I think about 15 years after I was in first year or second year, I could still see the ink, part of the ink of the initials in my arm. So the ink was still in there,
Yeah.
And just like from a biro. Yeah.
You're lucky you didn't end up with septicemia. Yeah. Well, like, again, that's interesting, because the first ever form of tattooing was scarification. They used to get the flint of a rock and sharpen it and cut images in so that it would leave a scar of the image. And then it was right back to the Ice Age. And then as they progressed on, the flint, they used to cut the image in, and they used to get the ash from the fire, and that would be the ink that would stay in. And that's the earliest form of tattoos that were.
Because the way we did it, we wouldn't stick the needle like a tattoo. We would scrape the arm, scrape it, and then when it would get down below, it would like be bleeding. You would put the ink in, and so that's you call that scarification.
Scarification, yeah. So that was the earliest ever form of it. And once you're not going below the subcutaneous layer, the ink will sit in that little pocket there once you get it down deep enough. Yeah.
But I'm sure like that, in prison, the way when, especially, prisons where there'd be a lot of tattoos and some great tattoo artists, I'm sure even now to this day, there are people getting tattoos done in kind of dodgy ways, no?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the Walkman would be a common way of making a tattoo machine in prison, using the motor of the Walkman.
Yeah.
That was a common way. But yeah, I mean, it still goes on, and there's many ways and forms. And I've had some traditional tattoos done with the bamboo and the tap and poke, all those, and it's fascinating.
That's quite sore, no?
It's not more painful. It's just slower getting it done, But it's not more painful,
From all the tattoos you have, where was the sorest place? So what was the most tender?
Well, getting the head tattooed was excruciating. When you smack your head off a shelf and you have to rub it, it's like that for like 5 hours at a time, and you can't rub it.
Wow.
The armpit was horrible. The back of the knees.
I've heard under the arm there is very, very tender for that, is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, yeah, really horrible. And there's loads of nerve endings there as well. And for me, I hate anyone touching my ribs. I broke my ribs in competition in jiu-jitsu, and I hate anyone touching my ribs. So getting them done was like a challenge because I just don't like anyone touching my ribs. So yeah, pretty sore.
What's the longest sitting you've done for a tattoo?
I'll never forget it. 8.5 hours at a tattoo convention where, you know, everybody's walking by and watching you get tattooed, so you're pretending to be brave. And the guy who did it is known as one of the heaviest handed, and he was digging for gold. 8.5 hours, yeah, I was not.
That's like, you know, when you watch a TV show and they say he's 8 hours in surgery, but 8 hours getting tattoos is crazy, no?
Yeah. At a tattoo convention, try not to cry in front of 200 people.
Bravest man in the show,
Yeah.
you know? Wow.
But I used to be brave, and these days I'm just a big baby. I think like anyone who, I haven't gotten tattooed in a couple of years, but anyone who tattoos me now, or my wife, she's a tattoo artist, I can complain a lot more to them.
Yeah.
You know, I can moan.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
That's great. So come here. Let's well, just to finish off on the tattooing, you have how many shops? Do you have 2 or 3 shops?
I've had loads of shops over the years, but my last one in Dundalk I closed a year and a half ago because I have a private studio now.
Okay.
So it's private by appointment, and I only do it when I have, well, like when I'm acting and doing the stuff. Whenever I have free dates, I'll book it in that way. So, like I said, I moved away, and the shop we had here in Dundalk was absolutely insanely busy, and everybody thought I was crazy closing it. But I was about to have a nervous breakdown. I was literally running from one thing to the other and trying to keep everything afloat, and it was too much. And now I have such a better work-life balance with the appointments, and I'm able to do all the other stuff that I want to do.
So, like with the acting, you know, because obviously you were doing the Pearson and you were playing music and everything. So, how did you get into the acting? How did that come about?
I mean, the earliest, I've always been acting the bollocks, I suppose, but like the earliest was like when I was younger. I used to do, you know, theatre summer camps and stuff like that, and I loved them. But again, it was the whole like rough town. If people found out that you did like those, you'd be fucking, you know, targeted, and it was just kind of ridiculousness. And but then like the music came along, the martial arts and all that, so I kind of just, you know, forgot about it for a while. And then because of the tattoo look, I started getting requested to do a lot of the like modeling alternative look and stuff. And I am quite a quiet, shy, reserved guy, so I felt really awkward, and I said no as much as I could. To be honest, like I was completely just terrified and didn't want to do it. And after a while, I did it, and then I signed to an agency, and I started getting some big commercial stuff, and I got used to it. And that was kind of my start of my acting, because I was so nervous. And I used to look at photo shoots that I'd done, and you can see it in your face. You're like, oh, Jesus, you look like a rabbit in the headlights. And then I kind of developed this persona that I was pretending to be confident in front of the camera, you know. And then from that, I started getting asked to be in music videos and, you know, stuff like that. And then I kind of just got the bug for the acting, you know, to try and start pushing it and pursuing it and stuff like that. And so I've been about 15 years now really kind of pushing it, but really only in the last 6 years that it's kind of started to take off. Yeah.
When you started getting some gigs through it, was it something you thought, okay, I want to kind of go and study this a bit more, or you just kind of learned as you went along?
I learned as I went along, and I was getting, you know, loads of commercial work and all that. And then the studying and the training thing, I didn't actually do any training on. My first one was probably about 7 years ago. I started taking a few classes, and then as I was kind of getting more and more work, I decided then to go back and study in Bow Street Acting Academy, which is the biggest screen acting course in Ireland. And I did that in 2018, 2019, just to go back. And that was an amazing experience, and it really like taught me so much. And then I was out in LA at the start of last year, and I was training out in an acting academy out there called Crash Acting with Benjamin Mattis, who's one of the big guys out there. And that was amazing. So as an actor, you should kind of always keep training, and you learn something new from each class. And Like I did method acting with Brian Timoney about 3 or 4 years ago in England, and I discovered that I didn't really like method acting, the style. It didn't suit me, you know. But you need to go do these things to find out what works for you and what doesn't.
I heard a funny story once about a guy that was going to a method acting coach, and he was supposed to be there at like 7 or 8 in the morning to start the thing, and he arrived at 9, and the coach said to him, What's this like? You were supposed to be here an hour or two ago. And he said, yeah, but I'm trying to get into the character, and he's always late for stuff.
Gets you out of anything.
And the method acting coach was looking at him like, I don't know if you're wrong or right.
Yeah. There's another great story about method acting. It was Dustin Hoffman was filming Rain Man and Laurence Olivier, and Dustin Hoffman hadn't slept in 3 days because he was trying to get into the method of the character and make him look sleep deprived and stressed out and everything. And when he came in that morning, Laurence Olivier said to Dustin Hoffman, goes, Jesus, man, you look awful. Like, are you okay? And he's like, oh, I've been 3 days up and I'm trying to get into the mindset, but I'm really struggling to get into the mindset. And Laurence Olivier just turned around to me. He goes, "Do you ever try acting?"
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I mean, it's like for some people it's very natural to do some roles, but then for other roles they're like, I need a method acting coach, and you're like, well, maybe just act it out a little bit.
Give it a go, you know. So it works for some people, and some of the best actors in the world are method actors, and fair play to them. I just couldn't mentally do what you need to do to get there, and I find I can get there okay. You know, I don't need to stay in the character for weeks walking around. But yeah, I mean, obviously with the look and, you know, the tattoos and all that, I do get typecast as the villain.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, because obviously from roles you've done and roles you're yet to do, did you kind of feel like, okay, or did an agent even say to you, you might be typecast a little bit? Expect that.
Like I'm fine with it. It's not something that like I complain about. I love playing those roles. It's so much fun playing the bad guy. I get to play all these and absolutely fine with it. But there is more to me than that, you know. And I've been just trying to knock on doors for the last few years to try and convince casting agents that you don't always have to cast me as the villain or the bad guy. And I did one romantic comedy. It was actually the follow-on movie from Cecilia Ahern, P.S. I Love You. It was the next movie after that. And it was like a rom-com, and all my friends were like, what the fuck are you doing playing a rom-com? Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, why not? You know, it's the stigma that we have that I look like this, so I should play this, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But so when I was in Bow Street then, we were encouraged, you know, to write our own stuff. And if there's roles that you want to get and you can't get cast for, you're not getting seen for, go write it yourself and go film it yourself. And that's what I did. So my debut short film, Reflection, I wrote a character for myself that was very vulnerable. It was to do with male suicide and the juxtaposition between people seeing me on the screen with this little girl that's lost in the woods who helps me, and seen that interaction.
Yeah, because I haven't watched that yet, but the picture, even the cover where the noose is hanging and you're in the woods with the girl, I mean, you kind of can get an idea what's coming or what it's about. But it looks really interesting, because the first thing that I was thinking, looking at the girl, I was thinking, okay, because I didn't know, was it, not having watched it, I was thinking, is this like some kind of psychological thriller? Is the girl real? So I'm interested to watch that one.
Okay, yeah, there's a few twists and turns. I won't ruin it for you. But loads of my mates were like, "Did you kill her?" Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I hope that's for a horse.
Yeah. So like definitely, so I went and wrote that with the goal of displaying myself in a different way, and it did work, because like casting directors and people saw me and they were like, "We never would have thought of seeing you in this kind of vulnerable role," and so it opened a few doors, and that's what you need to do if you're an actor and you're not getting the parts that you want to display. Just go make it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And so, obviously with Kane and, the Dublin murders and all of these stuff you've been in, once it kind of started, was it like, did the momentum keep going once you did a role, and then were you straight into other roles, or did you have big gaps between things?
Big gaps, and It's to the credit of like Louise Kiley, casting director, and Ali Coffey, and these people that I've like spent years building up relationships with, because they're putting a risk by putting me into, for these castings and these roles, because I'm so far out there, and it's their reputation. And it's only for these kind of people that are pushing for me. And I have an agent in the UK and I have an agent here, that it's taken years and years to break down the barriers and get known. But definitely you'd get a role and you'd be like, Into the Badlands was amazing. I was like, wow, this is amazing. AMC, big network show. And you think, it's going to follow on to something. And then there could be nothing for months and months and months, and it's very sporadic. And that's why in the downtime, I set up the production company and we started making our own stuff, to put yourself out there and stay in the spotlight.
Right, right. Yeah, because I suppose that's kind of the way you have to look at it now. If you do a role and then you've nothing for 6 months, don't waste that talent you have. And especially as you're learning things as you go along, because you'll be on shoots and you'll see the way things are done. So you will learn like how it's all done. And then you can kind of say, well, when we have our production company, we're learning as well from being on those big sets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like my second short, Marrow, it's about mermaids.
Yeah, I
it's
saw a trailer of that one. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm not in that one.
Yeah. No, but yeah.
I'm not the mermaid.
No, not the mermaid.
So like I just wrote and directed it with my wife, under our production company, and we took over cinematography on that one. And we picked up awards for the cinematography, and again it was, just from learning ourselves, and we learned so much on doing reflection. We learned all the mistakes, and and a lot of those mistakes we were like, okay, so we're going to take those mistakes into our own hands now, because sometimes when you put trust in other people and they don't deliver what they're looking for, and so it's all a learning curve. And now the script for my feature film, so that's going to be the next big one. So that's a huge project, but it's moving along.
With obviously doing the feature film, is it hard to get funding from the Arts Council, or what's it like?
Yeah, it's really tough. It's very very tough. So I'm lucky that I like through the two short films, I've built up some good connections, and the awards helps and stuff like that. So I've 4 production companies that are interested in coming on board, and I've 2 investors. But it's going to take a lot of raising funds, and you can apply for a lot of grants, but there's not a lot out there. It's very slim pickings, and you could be waiting a couple of years if you're waiting on grants. So you have to be quite proactive about it and just make it happen as best you can for yourself.
And obviously, like that, when you have a production company, and you'll probably run into other people with scripts, and they'll come on board with you. But that whole idea of pitching, especially people going over to LA, I don't know what season it starts, but the whole pitching season,
yeah,
I mean, that's a tough thing to do as well, isn't it?
That's what I was over in LA for. It was pilot season, and it's like I knew going out there how tough it was going to be, but Jesus, like nobody wants to help you. They're all so like selfish, and it's not like over here, and they keep everything to themselves because they're worried that you're going to take their job, and nobody will tell you anything, and very cagey. But I mean, it's such a tough thing to do, and it really, like, acting or production company or making your own films or directing or anything, it's such a long game. It's building up connections, building a rapport, building up a reputation for yourself, meeting good actors along the way, and remembering those who helped you, and those who didn't, and trying to help them with their career. And it's all about building up connections, and then trying to call in those connections when you need them, which is what we're going to be doing with the feature, because it's a huge undertaking. But so far the reaction to the script has been amazing, and hopefully with all the production companies coming together, we can actually get this thing made. Yeah, so I'm excited about it.
And you were mentioning there, let's say, with the cinematography. So for you guys, did you have to kind of build like an editing studio, or are you using minimal equipment?
Yeah, I mean, my wife edited Marrow, the last one, herself, just on the Mac, and basically like taught herself to do it. And I mean, the compliments, and she was commended on the editing.
Brilliant.
And so it was a self-taught thing, and same with us with the cameras and stuff like that. And it was just kind of a learning experience of us going out there and getting it done. But sometimes that's just the way you need to do it, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the same like that because my background's always kind of been in music and I've done music production and everything. But when I started doing this podcast, and I think it was up towards Christmas, I thought, okay, I'm going to kind of have to do a video for a Christmas show. And you're sitting down with Final Cut Pro and saying, okay, how does this work? Is it
Yeah,
like Logic? Is it different?
yeah,
And you have to
yeah,
just learn as you go along and kind of make mistakes, and you get better and better. But it's great now. I mean, we have the software and the YouTube and internet and everything to teach you as well.
yeah, definitely. And like it was amazing when my wife was editing it, because we could be in control of our own project, you know, whereas before it was a little bit out of our hands, and but because we were editing, we know the vision that we had and how we wanted it to look, and it's such an amazing experience, you know. Um, and like with the Dublin Crust now, we'll be bringing in a lot more people into the fold, and but they're people that I've met and know how good they are and have a rapport with them. And there's two like big names. I'm not going to
Yeah,
name them
yeah,
now
okay, no
because
problem.
they're not
Yeah.
official, but they're people that I've had interactions with through different stuff over the years, that I've written characters for them and I've approached them and they're both interested, which, yeah, get those names on there to get it sold would just be absolutely unbelievable. Yeah.
Obviously, I know it's very hard to put a date for release, but do you think it'll be like next year or the year after, or when?
Well, I'm very proactive when I get going. I don't hang around. Obviously, with COVID, we're restricted, but now that the script is done, the production companies and the ball is rolling. I was actually out scouting locations today. I secured one of the big locations that we needed today.
All within 5 kilometers.
Of course, of course, 100%. Just to throw that in there. So I'm optimistically aiming for November to get filming and shooting. You know.
The guards will be watching the film and they'll be like, hold on, they're up the Dublin Mountains. That's 15
Yeah,
kilometers.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It'll be kind of retro crimes. They'll be looking back at all the films made in Ireland during COVID going, that's not their town.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
that's what it'll
That's
take.
brilliant. Well, I mean, good luck with that. That's going to be great. And I was reading obviously a bit of the description about that movie. It's kind of a train spotting type movie as well. So it sounds like it's going to be really interesting.
Kind of, yeah. It's like Train Spotting meets The Commitments, full Monty, kind of black comedy with a drama behind it. And it was about a crazy punk band. I forgot to mention that I was in, called Mongohorn, for 7 years. They were absolutely insane. The front man was insane. So it's loosely based on that story of the band, and set in Dublin. And yeah, really excited about it. Someone who read the script last night said that it reminded them of The Snapper and The Van and those kind of Roddy Doyle kind of, you know.
When you look back now at everything you've done so far, as regards TV and movies, is there one particular role that you really enjoyed?
Into the Badlands, like, and I'd done lots of stuff before that. That was the scariest thing in my life. And like, I've done stand up comedy, I've done live TV and all that kind of stuff, but that was terrifying because it was such an enormous set and there was so much pressure. So I look back on it now and I didn't enjoy it because I was so terrified, you know. But filming on Kin, and I only have a small role on Kin, but it's a nice scene, and I did a lot of prep work for it, and I found myself enjoying myself so much more because it was so many years later, and I'd done so much in between, and I was actually able to enjoy the experience, you know. So, yeah, I'd say to date that was probably my most enjoyable on the acting side of things, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously, with the Dublin murders and Kin, they're kind of coming from that thought of or that, how will I put it, style, like Love Hate. So when Love Hate was being filmed, like, did you get a nod at any stage towards that, or?
No, nothing. And a lot of the people that were casting that were from Bow Street, but that was before, my
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And no, didn't even have an audition for that. And like, I've had auditions for stuff that's come out, and like that Darklands thing, I had a few auditions for that and didn't get them. And like, I've done so many auditions and there's been so many failures, and that's something that you have to take as an actor, as every actor knows, you know. And I mean, you just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and you can get like 50 no's, and then it's that one yes
Yeah,
that makes
of
it
course.
worthwhile, you know. But it can be really, really tough and mentally draining, and you start questioning yourself, and you know, but the competition is ridiculous. I did a self tape for a new BBC drama last week, and my agent was saying the week before there was a role, and he put one of his female actresses from the books onto it, and they got 7,500 tapes for a one line part. That's how many people sent in tapes. So that's what you're up against. And he was like, they'll maybe get to 30 tapes if you're lucky. But if you don't get in the first 30 tapes, they're not even going to see your tape. Imagine you're 7,500 tapes. They're not seeing you, you know? So that's what you're up against, yeah.
Here's a question for you, like, because I was thinking this actually, because I came across your profile on LinkedIn, and I saw obviously your credits, and I was looking at your show reel, and I was like, this guy looks interesting. But for me, it wasn't. I mean, I saw your tats, but it wasn't about your tats. I didn't think I want to get this guy on to talk about his tattoos, because I mean, I've seen lots of people with tattoos. It was more your career I was interested in. But what I was thinking then, just kind of when I was researching you, I was thinking, I wonder, does he get invited onto a lot of TV shows because of his body image?
Yeah, I do. And I've done lots of them, and I've been on a lot of them. But to be honest with you, I'm kind of a little bit done with them. It brings the most hate into my life. It really does. Like, I mean, that one you were talking about earlier, and the video, and I still share the video because the message of it is good. I can't even watch it myself. I don't like it. But the message is good, but it brings out all the trolls and all the hate, and I'm trying to defend, and I do a lot of videos on body positivity and stuff like that. But a lot of these TV shows and that, they're for shock tactics, and they want to react, and they're trying to, in a passive aggressive way, they're trying to get a reaction out of you and put you down, and they're pretending like they're asking you one thing, but they're still making you defend it. And so I don't know. I've done a lot. The Tommy Tiernan one was amazing. He was absolutely brilliant. He was so good. And they actually edited out so much of that because they had to edit it down, But we had such a great chat, and there was like we were, pissed, making each other piss ourselves laughing, and then afterwards we were chatting for about 2 hours about music afterwards, like, and he was such a genuine nice guy, and he apologized. I haven't ever watched it back, but I don't know if they left it in, but the first thing he said to me was, "Any regrets?"
Yeah, I saw that, actually. I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, but then at the end, I don't know if they kept it in, but after I had the chat with him, and I was out there talking to him for like an hour, and they only put in like 8 minutes or whatever. But he said at the end, he goes, like, after listening to you, he said, I'm one of those people that the first thing I said to you was, "Any regrets?" And after listening to you now, I realized that, you've made the point that that's the worst thing I said. So I'd like to apologize to you. I don't know if they left it in, but it was nice.
Like, people can say something, but they don't mean it in a malicious way, and they're just kind of can be joking as well. And I suppose Tommy's the biggest joker, So the thing about it is, he has that kind of cynical, sarcastic wit. So I don't think he meant it in a bad way. I think it was something he just said it, but like sometimes you can say something and say, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that." But no, I just kind of get that feeling sometimes that, from it, I'm not doing this a very long time, but sometimes when you interview different people, you kind of get a feeling that when they're in the entertainment industry, they're typecast a little, or they're brought on shows because of their image or because of their skin color or anything. And for me, I don't really like that. I mean, I always try and keep this show very positive, and I always say to people, I'm not going to ask you questions that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. And if you do, we'll cut it out. If I do, we'll take it out. But the thing about it is, because sometimes in the media, there's too many shock tactics, and they're trying to get a reaction.
Yeah, and like I said no to every season of Body Shockers that's on Channel 4. And like season 3, they were ringing me again. They were like, "No, it's not going to be like the other seasons. We're going to portray it," because they were portraying it really, really bad. They were saying anybody that got a tattoo had mental health issues, and No, season 3 is all about the positivity and the art, and it's going to be complete. They rang me. I'd say they rang me about 17 times, and I was like, no, not doing it, not doing it. And then season 3 came out, and it was the exact same bullshit as the other two. So they were just absolutely lying through their teeth. And there's loads of them that I've said no to, because I'll only do something if it's from a positive spin, not from a negative spin. I don't want to be associated with that kind of stuff, you know?
No, I mean, you're right. Yeah, you're right, because there's too much of that. And unfortunately, they're trying to sell TV shows, and the biggest way to sell it is by something shocking or different. And it sometimes can be very negative, and they don't realize sometimes they're kind of destroying people's lives, because, for you're one person telling the story, but you could have thousands or millions watching it. And the thing is, you're opening yourself to all of this, like, online abuse and everything, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely it. Yeah, and I remember I was on the Nicky Byrne show, or the Ryan Tubridy show, on his radio show, and did the interview, and it was grand, it was fine, whatever, and just talking about tattoos and all the usual crap and all that. But I remember RT rang me the next day to notify me that they've had to remove something like 92 comments because they were so horrendous. And they were like, if you need to talk to somebody like about them, and I don't read comments anymore. I've learned that a long time ago. So I don't read them, and it was death threats to my family, and saying I was a disgrace to my family, and like all this fucking mental shit, So
Pure bullshit.
Yeah, it brings a lot. And I mean, most of these kind of shows, they care about their ratings. They don't really care about you, So I've said no to more than I've said yes, for sure. That's definitely.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think the problem is that, in some of those shows, the host could be great, but there's such a big production crew or directing behind it and they have to work to these kind of, what's the word, like, rules, or they say, oh yeah, well, we want the shock factor, and the host might be saying, I don't want to ask those questions, but they're kind of saying, no, we need to ask those questions, the tough questions.
Push it. Yeah, no, it's 100% true. And then editing as well. And I'd actually worked with the director before the Tommy Tiernan thing, and he rang me, and because RTE rang me, and they got 3.5 million views on the little clip that they shared, and they'd never gotten that before in a video. So they were all like, saying it was amazing, whatever. And the director rang me because I'd worked with him before, and he was like, oh, I loved it. And he was kind of apologizing, saying there was so much good stuff there, but he had to work within what he was told the beats were. And he's like, I couldn't leave in all the acting stuff and talking about your music and all that. It was all, they wanted the tattoos, and that was it, So it's the way, I understand that.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I mean, you're so much more than that, because that's kind of, I think, in a way, the tattoos are kind of like your fashion sense. I mean, it's like what you decide to wear. I know it's on you all the time, but it's not just you. There's something inside that, and your creative side obviously is shown in the movies and the TV, and your acting and everything. So there's so much more to you. But the first thing people just hone in on is the body image.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but like, it doesn't define me,
No.
my tattoos. No. They're just there. But like, as well, I go into autopilot, I go into robot mode, because people say the same things to me over and over, ask me the same things when I'm out, and I have these set answers that I don't even think about. And the annoying thing for me is, if I meet new people or whatever, it takes me 15 minutes to get past the tattoo conversation before you get to my real personality.
Exactly, yeah.
Because the tattoo things, we've been talking about it for years, and it's grand. I'll answer them as long as people are being respectful. I understand they're curious, whatever. But then, after 15 minutes, if somebody starts talking to me about movies, then my real personality, I'm completely different, because I'm actually engaged and talking about it, So it's one of those things. I just kind of, you just have to get used to.
Yeah, and I suppose, from doing it for so long now, you're probably expecting, oh, here we go, But yeah, I mean, that's why for me, it's not the thing I wanted to focus on. And I know it's a part of your life, and it's a big part of your life. But I think, to be honest, when I look at you, there are bigger things happening in your life than your tattoos, and there are bigger things that have happened. And those are the kind of things people should focus on, because it's kind of like the ugly DJ thing, if you can be the ugliest guy in the world but have the best voice, and people would say, oh, he's an amazing voice, and then they see the face and they're changing reaction, and you're thinking, why are you changing reaction? You love the voice, stay loving the voice,
Yeah, I mean, like, your questions were educated, and like, absolutely no problem answering them, and they were interesting, but it's just when you're out, or or a lot of interviews as well. You are right. I'm kind of waiting for the question, and they ask the same things over and over again, and and I did it for a long time, and I've done loads of them and all that. But I'm kind of, for the tattoo side of things and all that, I'm kind of over that. I don't need to really do it anymore.
Well,
So.
listen, Baz. It's been wonderful talking to you. I mean, very interesting, and you've had a great life. You're still a young guy, and you've had a really interesting life so far. So I can see great things coming, to you in the future. What's your the last thing I want to ask you? What's your kind of ambitions or aspirations for the next year or two? What is it? Getting the movie finished and
Yeah, I mean, it'll be mainly, moving the production company along. So Sherlock Productions, and then it'll be, the main focus will be getting the feature film rolling and moving along. The Uncaged movie, it's filming in Pinewood Studios in the UK, and that's May now is the date that we've been given. So hopefully that goes ahead, and I'll be over filming that for a while. I'm doing a TV series called Isolation. So I've a bit coming up on that as well, and then when Kin comes out, hopefully that'll open up doors. I'm filming a feature film, Centauri. It's a sci-fi one with Wesley Grogan. He's directing it, so I have that coming up as well, and hopefully these things actually get going and get moving. And for me, like, my main goal, and it has been for a long time, is my just dream as an actor is to get on a TV series, like a regular TV, like Line of Duty or any kind of BBC drama where you're a regular character and you can block that off for a few months of your life. That'll be definitely the dream there. So.
Well, I'm sure that'll happen in time. Give it time and have the patience. So listen, thanks very much, and we really appreciate you coming on. And when the movie comes out, we'll plug it and everything, and to whatever listeners we have, and we will hopefully we'll have you on the show again in the future. Because it's been a real pleasure to chat to you. So thanks again, Baz Black, everybody.
Thanks a million, man.
Okay, thank you very much, Baz. That was a really interesting conversation, and thanks for shedding some light on the tattoo and piercing scene in Ireland. And we look forward to speaking to you some more, and also best of luck with your acting, and look forward to seeing some of your upcoming projects, and we will plug them and let everybody know about them. Okay, moving on to next week's guest. So next week we have Ultan Conlon, and Ultan is from Loughrea. He's an Irish singer-songwriter. Ultan has performed live with John Martin, Mary Coughlin, Lisa Hannigan, Mark Geary, Rosie, and so many more. So Ultan has a new album coming out at the moment, and Ultan has played with John Martin, and he really has formed his own kind of identity on the live scene, and he's very in demand, and he has a new song with Gabby Moreno as well out at the moment. So we're going to talk more to Ultan about everything he's doing, and we might hear some nice music from him as well. So we hope you tune into that, and we'll be here at the same time every week, and we hope you come along. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we look forward to having you here the next time as well. So look after yourselves and take care of everybody else as well, and we will see you soon.